If you'd asked me 5 years ago what my relationship with my mom was like, I probably would have said complicated, but not in a bitter way. More like in that vague, sitcom mom kind of way. You know, the kind of mom who guilt trips you into visiting more often, who critiques your posture, your job, your haircut, your partner, and then hugs you so tight you forget she was ever being passive-aggressive. Back then, I still believed she meant well. I'm 29 now, and my name's Evan. I work in IT, nothing glamorous, just your average remote support guy with a desk in the corner of a 2-bedroom apartment and a knack for setting up streaming devices in 5 minutes flat. I've always been the reliable one in the family, which basically means anytime something breaks, someone forgets a password, or a bill is due and nobody understands how autopay works, I'm the one who gets the call. For the past 3 years, my mom's been riding the benefit train of that dependability. It started small, her asking if I could just help set up the Wi-Fi at her place when she moved into a smaller house after the divorce. I showed up with a router, hooked it up, and realized she didn't have any service provider yet. Next thing I knew, I was adding her address to my existing internet plan temporarily while she got back on her feet. That was 3 years ago. Then came the phone plan. She needed a cheaper line and didn't want to lose her number. Family plan was cheaper with multiple lines, she said. Made sense. She even said she'd Venmo me monthly. That happened twice. Don't even get me started on Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Spotify, the whole streaming buffet. It was easier to just give her access than listen to her rant about how hard everything was now that she was alone. But here's the part one never saw coming. The favor she asked last month that set everything in motion. She called me late on a Tuesday night, voice frantic, pacing fast like she was walking in circles. She told me she had to go to court over a minor misunderstanding with her landlord. According to her, he was being petty about damage to the property she swore was pre-existing. Then, casually, like she was asking me to water her plants, she said, "I need you to testify that the hole in the wall was already there when you helped me move in. Just say you saw it." I blinked at my phone for a solid 10 seconds. "Wait, what hole?" She sighed like I was being difficult. "Evan, it's just a small thing. He's exaggerating. The guy's a snake. You know how these landlords are." I told her, point blank, "I'm not lying under oath for you." Silence. Then, "You're unbelievable. After everything I've done for you." That phrase hit like a punch. Everything she's done for me. I stayed calm, told her I loved her, but I wasn't going to commit perjury to help her with a legal issue. I even offered to help her find a lawyer or pay for one if she couldn't afford it. She hung up on me mid-sentence. I figured we'd cool off. Maybe not talk for a few days. That's how our arguments always went. But the next morning, I woke up to a single text, long, cold, and final. "You are no longer welcome in this family. Don't bother showing your face at Thanksgiving." I just sat there, reading it over and over. My chest felt hollow. And then, almost as if life wanted to twist the knife a little deeper, I got a notification. "Your Spotify family plan just added a new device." Hers, of course. It felt ridiculous, almost surreal. Here was a woman who told me I was dead to her, still jamming to playlists on a service I was paying for. That was the moment something snapped, not in an angry, explosive way. It was colder than that, quieter, like a light switch flipped. For years I'd let this pattern go unchecked. She needed something, I provided. She made demands, I rationalized. She crossed lines, I looked the other way because she's just like that. But now she'd made it clear I was nothing to her. So I decided to act accordingly. It started with the internet. I logged into my account and removed her address from the service. Canceled the additional line on the phone plan right after. Then I went through each streaming service, one by one. Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Disney+, Spotify. Logged into every account, removed her devices, changed the passwords, and enabled two-factor authentication. I didn't send her a message. Didn't give her a heads up. I just sat back and watched the quiet unfold. And oh, it unfolded. By 8 a.m. the next day, my siblings' phones were blowing up. My younger sister texted me first. "Did you change the Wi-Fi or something?" Mom's freaking out. Then my older brother chimed in. "What the hell happened?" Mom's calling me nonstop. She says everything's down and you're being vindictive. I didn't reply right away. I wanted to see how far she'd go, what she'd say, how she'd spin it. And when the voicemail started coming in, not from her, but from the rest of the family, I knew I'd struck a nerve. That's where things really started to turn. because what I thought was just a personal act of boundary setting was about to turn into a full-on family firestorm. I didn't answer my siblings' text that morning, not because I didn't care, but because I knew the moment I did, it would spiral into a group guilt session orchestrated by my mother from behind the scenes. That was her power. She didn't need to shout to control the room. She could make you doubt yourself with a sigh. She could turn your own words against you with a single, "I'm just so disappointed." And right then, I needed space to think. By noon, my brother Liam called me directly. "Dude, what's going on? Mom's losing her mind." I closed my laptop, leaned back in my chair. She told me I was out of the family, so I acted like it. He paused. "You cut off the internet, and the phone line, and the streaming services, all of which were in my name." There was silence on the line for a few seconds. Then a sharp exhale. "Man, couldn't you have given her a warning?" "Nope," I said. "She didn't give me one when she disowned me." He mumbled something about overreacting, and she's just upset. But I didn't flinch. I told him flat out, "I'm not her doormat. Not anymore." That's when the tide started shifting, but not the way I expected. Because instead of letting it go, instead of backing down and accepting she'd finally pushed too far, my mom escalated. Hard. By that evening, my Aunt Marie, her older sister, texted me something like, "I don't know what's happening between you two, but your mother is devastated. Please call her." I ignored it. Then came a Facebook post. Not private, not subtle. A long, rambling message about how some people forget where they come from once they get a paycheck, and families fall apart when selfishness takes the wheel. I didn't need to be tagged to know it was about me. My cousin Rachel sent me screenshots within minutes. Still, I stayed quiet. Until the group chat started up. We had a family group thread called Sunday Roast. Me, my mom, my siblings, a couple of aunts and cousins. It had mostly been used to coordinate family dinners, wish happy birthdays, and occasionally share bad memes. That night, my mom used it as a stage. She sent a massive paragraph, like a mini monologue, about how some people don't appreciate sacrifices, how she was a single mother who gave up everything, and how, after raising 3 ungrateful children, she's left with silence when she needs support the most. What struck me wasn't just the guilt trip, it was how she painted herself as the victim. No mention of the request to commit perjury. No mention of her own text disowning me. Just this passive-aggressive sob story designed to make everyone else question me. And it worked. My sister, Emma, jumped in with, "Wait, what happened? Did Evan really cut off the Wi-Fi because of a fight?" My mom replied, "It wasn't a fight, sweetie. It was betrayal." I stared at my phone, hands shaking, not with rage, but something heavier. Sadness, maybe. Or the kind of ache you get when someone you love rewrites the truth in front of an audience that's too polite or too afraid to question it. I typed one message and sent it without rereading. "I didn't betray anyone. I refused to lie under oath for you. And then you told me I was no longer part of this family." So I took that seriously. The chat went quiet. For about an hour. Then came the private calls. First Liam again. Then Emma. Then my cousin Jenna. All of them confused. All of them trying to piece together what had really happened. I explained the situation calmly to each of them. Every time, their voices dropped a little when they realized the truth. "Wait, she wanted you to lie in court?" Emma asked, stunned. "Yeah, just a small lie, apparently. And when you said no, she disowned you?" "Yup." Jesus. By the end of the night, the group chat was silent again. My mom hadn't replied since I dropped that message. She was probably on damage control mode now, reaching out one-on-one, spinning her narrative, planting seeds of doubt like she always had. I thought that would be the worst of it, that maybe she'd simmer down, realize she went too far, and let it blow over. But I underestimated her pride and her ability to twist a knife. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email, not a text, a real letter, handwritten. 3 pages, front and back. It started with, "You have embarrassed me in front of this entire family," and spiraled into every grudge she'd ever held against me. Apparently, I'd always been emotionally distant. I never called enough. I acted like I was better than everyone else, because I went to college while she worked 2 jobs. She even brought up that I didn't chip in for Emma's graduation party 6 years ago. Then the kicker. She said she was cutting me out of her will. I stared at that line for a long time. Not because I cared about the money. I knew she didn't have much, just the house she was struggling to maintain, a couple of antique necklaces, some savings. But because of what it meant. She wanted to hurt me, punish me, not for doing something wrong, but for refusing to play along. That was when I realized this wasn't just a flare-up. It was a line in the sand, and she was daring me to step over it. So I did. I started talking, quietly, but truthfully. When relatives reached out, I didn't sugarcoat anymore. I told them the full story, not with anger, just facts. That I'd paid for her internet, her phone, her subscriptions for years. That she never once said thank you. That she asked me to lie in court, and, when I refused, she cut me off. Some people were shocked. Some were sympathetic. A few just didn't respond. But slowly, the mask started to slip. The more people knew, the harder it became for her to play the victim. And that's when the real betrayal happened. Emma called me one night, sounding shaky. She said, "Mom asked me to testify for her." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. "What?" She said, "Since you won't do it, she needs someone she can trust." And she wanted me to say I saw the damage, too, even though I never did. My chest tightened. "And what did you say?" I told her no, that I wouldn't lie either. And she screamed at me. Screamed, "Evan." She said I was turning on her, that I was choosing you over family. That was the moment it all came into focus. This wasn't about internet bills or streaming passwords. It wasn't even about court. It was about control, loyalty, the kind that demands silence, even when someone crosses a line. I felt something shift inside me then. Not anger, not vengeance. Just clarity. My whole life, I danced around her moods, tiptoed through her guilt trips, laughed off her manipulation because it was easier than confronting it. But now, I wasn't alone anymore. Emma saw it too. So did Liam, in his quiet way. The fog was lifting, but it wasn't over. Because a week later, my mom did something that made everything worse and finally pushed things beyond the point of repair. She filed a police report, accusing me of theft. It started with a knock. Not the frantic kind. Just firm. Unfamiliar. I opened the door expecting a delivery. Maybe my neighbor needing help with Wi-Fi again. Instead, I was looking at a man and woman in uniform, badges clipped to their belts, calm but direct. "Are you Evan Marshall?" the man asked. Yeah. "I'm Officer Taylor. This is Officer Grant. We'd like to ask you a few questions about a report filed against you. May we come in?" I stepped aside, heart already racing. The last time I'd had the police at my door, I was 17, and someone had reported my car for being parked too close to a hydrant. That was the extent of my criminal career. I couldn't even imagine what this was about until they mentioned her name. "Your mother, Caroline Marshall, alleges that you removed property from her residence without her permission. Specifically, internet hardware, a phone line, and certain household devices linked to accounts in your name." I blinked. Wait, she filed a theft report for canceling services I was paying for. They exchanged a glance. Officer Grant opened a small notepad. "We're not here to make judgments, Mr. Marshall. We just need your statement." I told them everything. How the router was mine, bought on my own card, installed as a favor. How the phone plan was under my name. How the streaming devices she claimed were hers were all ones I'd bought and registered. I even pulled up receipts, account screens, and emails. Officer Taylor took notes. Officer Grant nodded slowly. After about 20 minutes, they left, assuring me it was probably going nowhere. "Honestly," Taylor said as he stepped outside, "these kinds of reports usually don't hold water when they involve family and shared services." But she insisted we follow protocol. I stood there in my doorway after they left, feeling like a hollowed-out version of myself. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. Just tired. So deeply tired. The betrayal felt like cement hardening around my chest. Not just because she filed the report, but because she did it knowing exactly how it would affect me. She knew I hated conflict. She knew how much I valued my reputation, my record. She knew I wasn't the kind of person who could shrug off an accusation like that. She wanted to scare me, humiliate me, control me one last time. And in that moment, it worked. I didn't leave my apartment for 2 days. I ignored calls from friends. Stopped replying to Emma, even though she kept checking in. I barely ate. I kept playing the scene over and over in my head. What if the cops had believed her? What if I didn't have receipts? What if she lied better than I could prove the truth? That week, I hit a low I hadn't seen in years. The kind where your brain just loops one thought. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe she's right. Maybe I really am selfish. Cold. Disloyal. But then, something unexpected happened. A package arrived at my door. No name on the sender, just a box. Inside was a hardcover book, adult children of emotionally immature parents. And a sticky note. You're not crazy. You're breaking a cycle. I'm proud of you. Emma, my sister. That one gesture shattered something inside me in the best way. I sat down and cried harder than I had in years. Not from pain, but from release. It was like someone had reached into the dark room I'd been locked in and cracked open a window. Over the next few weeks, I began to rebuild. Not dramatically, not all at once. Quietly, I got back to work. Refocused on the small IT business I'd been building on the side. Remote consulting for elderly clients who didn't know their way around modern devices. I'd been dragging my feet for months, unsure whether to really lean in. But now, I leaned. I rebranded the site, updated the booking system, started offering short digital literacy courses, 15-minute Zooms teaching people how to use their iPads, order groceries online, set up smart TVs. It blew up faster than I expected. One client referred another, then another. Within a month, I had more business than I could handle solo. And here's the thing, I wasn't doing it to prove anything to her. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't some cinematic rise from the ashes montage where I bought a mansion and slammed the door in her face. It was just healing. I started therapy, not the free kind from apps. Real, weekly sessions. For the first time, I talked openly about growing up with her. The manipulation. The way love always came with strings. The constant need to earn my place in the family. My therapist said something that stuck. You're not grieving a mother. You're grieving the idea of one. The one you hoped she'd become. That sentence became a compass. I began reconnecting with people I'd drifted from. Friends who I'd blown off because family always came first. Coworkers I'd avoided because I was too emotionally fried to make small talk. Even Liam started coming around again, quietly, awkwardly, but genuinely. He never apologized on Mom's behalf. Just started showing up. We'd grab lunch, talk shop, share silence without pressure. Emma, meanwhile, became my anchor. We started doing Sunday dinners together, just the two of us. Cooking new recipes, watching bad movies. Laughing like siblings again instead of allies in a Cold War. And my mom, she went quieter. After the police report fizzled, no charges, of course, she stopped reaching out. Not even a holiday text. She must have realized her narrative wasn't holding up. That people were beginning to see the cracks. And maybe that scared her. Or maybe she just couldn't face the idea that she'd lost control of me for good. But I still thought about her. Late at night. In quiet moments. Not out of longing, but out of curiosity. Did she regret it? Did she believe her own version of events? Did she think she was the victim? The hero? Or did she know exactly what she was doing the whole time? It didn't matter anymore. Because slowly, gently, I was learning to let go of needing an answer. And that, more than anything else, was the beginning of real peace. But the past has a funny way of knocking again just when you stop waiting for it. Because one Thursday morning, I got a voicemail from Emma. Her voice was tight, conflicted. Hey, weird news. Mom asked to meet. Says she has something to make right. I don't know what it is, but I think you should hear it too. I listened to Emma's voicemail 3 times before I called her back. The idea of my mom wanting to make something right felt more like a trap than a truce, but the tone in my sister's voice, cautious, almost nervous, was what caught my attention. Emma wasn't naive. If she was spooked, there was a reason. We met that night at our usual spot, her apartment, over pasta and boxed wine. She played the voicemail for me. This time, it was Mom's voice, low and oddly formal. Emma, I'd like to talk. No fighting, no drama. There are things I want to explain. If Evan is willing to come too, that would be best. I've made mistakes. I see that now. It was the kind of message that sounds like an apology if you don't listen too closely. But I knew her too well. My mom didn't do apologies. She did rebranding. She did optics. That message wasn't a white flag. It was a chess move. Still, I said I'd go. Not because I believed her, but because it was the first time she had extended an invitation since she kicked me out of the family by text. And when someone like her reaches out after months of silence, it means they want something. And I wanted to know what. We agreed to meet that Saturday. Neutral ground, Emma's apartment. I didn't want her in my space, and Emma refused to go to hers. She showed up on time, hair done, makeup perfect, wearing the kind of forced smile expression she reserved for church and parent-teacher conferences. Evan, she said like we were acquaintances at a wedding. You look well. I nodded. You look composed. She set her purse down on the counter, took a long breath, and got right into it. I've been doing a lot of reflecting. Therapy, journaling, talking to my pastor. I realized I may have acted rashly. Rashly, not wrongly. Classic. I was hurt, she continued, and I said things I didn't mean. You were always the logical one. Always so black and white. I think I needed more grace than you were willing to give. There it was. The subtle shift. Her mistake was really mine, you see, because I didn't give enough grace. I kept my face still. Let her keep talking. I want to put it all behind us. Family is family. And I've been thinking about what happens, long term. Health stuff. Estate stuff. Oh, there it was. She pulled out a folder. Actual papers. Not metaphorical. Legal looking. I'm updating my will, she said. I want to make sure things are clear. Avoid misunderstandings. I've spoken with a lawyer, and I thought it best if we all had the same information. She opened the folder and pulled out a copy. I didn't touch it, just watched her hands move. I'm naming Emma as my medical proxy, she said. An executor of the estate. But I want you both to know you're both in it. Equal shares. The house, the savings, the heirlooms. I don't want any more division. She looked up at me like this was a gift. A ribbon-wrapped olive branch. Emma read the room faster than I did. What's the catch? She asked. Mom blinked. Excuse me. You didn't call us here just to tell us you're being generous. You're not generous. You're strategic. So what do you want? Her face tightened for a split second, then smoothed. I want peace. I turned to Emma, who met my eyes with a look that said, she's lying. But we play along. So I nodded. Smiled even. Thank you. It means a lot. Mom left an hour later, clearly pleased with herself. I could feel it in the way she hugged Emma too long, and in the glance she gave me before leaving. As if to say, see, I'm still in control. But once the door shut, I sat down and stared at the folder. Something's off, I said. She wants something. This is leverage. Emma sat across from me, arms folded. So what do we do? That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for the other shoe to drop. This time, I was going to get ahead of her. Over the next few weeks, I started doing my homework. First, the lawyer. A quick search of the names she'd mentioned, Thompson and Brooks, led me to a bare-bones website. I called, pretending to be interested in estate planning. Asked about their process, their rates, and then I casually dropped her name. Oh yes, the assistant said. Caroline Marshall. She's finalizing a transfer of deed. That phrase hit me like a slap. Sorry, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. Did you say transfer of deed? Yes, the assistant replied. The property title. Just needs the signatures from both parties. I hung up after that, adrenaline buzzing in my ears. She wasn't just rewriting her will. She was trying to transfer the house. And she needed my signature. That's what all of this had been about. The apology. The will. The sudden interest in fairness. It was bait. And I almost bit. I called Emma immediately. She's trying to move the house. What, she said. Like sell it? No. Transfer the deed. To someone. Maybe you. Maybe a trust. I don't know yet. But she needs my signature for it. That's why she brought us together. She was buttering us up. Emma let out a low whistle. Wow. Yeah. We sat in silence for a few moments. Then she asked, what do you want to do? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I want to let her think she won. So that's what we did. The next time we met, I played my part perfectly. I asked polite questions about the estate. I signed a couple of copies she said were just for verification, non-binding, of course, just for clarity. But I took pictures of every document before I signed. Sent them to a lawyer friend I trusted. He looked them over and confirmed what I suspected. They're not binding, he said. But she's setting up a paper trail, trying to create the appearance of agreement in case you fight her later. I nodded. Good. Let her build her illusion. Because the more she committed to her con, the more evidence I had when it crumbled. Meanwhile, I dug deeper. Through a connection at the county recorder's office, an old college friend, I confirmed she had filed preliminary paperwork to transfer the house into a trust. Not to Emma. Not to me. To a church. Specifically, the one her new boyfriend pastored. That's when the full picture clicked. She wanted to leave us the illusion of inheritance, get us to sign off on it, and then donate the house to the church quietly, probably under some legacy gift language that couldn't be contested if we had already signed consent forms. And you know what? I wasn't even angry. I was impressed. It was bold, ruthless, textbook her. But this time, I had her mapped out. And I had receipts. So we set the stage. Emma invited her to dinner again, casually. We chatted, played dumb. She dropped more hints about final paperwork. I agreed to meet with her lawyer one more time, just to wrap things up. She was thrilled. The night before that meeting, I filed a formal complaint with the state bar using my lawyer friend's help, outlining the shady tactics, the misleading forms, and attaching all the documents I'd photographed. Then I called the church, and I told them, politely and professionally, that the house donation they were about to receive might be contested in court due to ongoing fraud. They were very interested in avoiding legal drama. And suddenly, so was she. But she didn't know yet that her little scheme had already collapsed, because I was saving that for the perfect moment. The moment I'd tell her, calmly, with a smile, that I knew everything, that I'd already spoken to her lawyer, that the church was backing off, that she had no deal, no leverage, and no more illusions left to peddle. And when I dropped that final card, I'd make sure the whole family was watching. I picked the day carefully. A Sunday afternoon, neutral, harmless, unassuming. The kind of day that gave the illusion of peace. It also happened to be the day of the monthly family lunch, a tradition Mom had tried to reinstate ever since she launched her faux apology campaign. She'd invited me and Emma to join, with the usual message. Let's move forward as a family. Life's too short. Emma had hesitated. You sure you want to do this? I nodded. Yeah. I'm done dancing around her games. Let's finish this. We arrived at her house a little early. She opened the door with her usual performance smile, tight and rehearsed. Emma, come in. I made that lasagna you love. I smiled politely. Smells great. She'd even set the table nicely. Candles, folded napkins. The good dishes she only pulled out for holidays or guilt tripping. Liam was already there, along with a few cousins and Aunt Marie. Everyone was acting like the last few months hadn't happened. Like the woman who'd called the police on me was just a sweet matriarch serving garlic bread. I waited until we were halfway through lunch. That's when I set my fork down. I want to talk about the house, I said calmly, wiping my mouth with a napkin. The table paused. Even the kids looked up. Mom blinked. I don't know what you mean. You tried to transfer it into a trust, I said. One tied to a church. Without telling us. Her face went pale, then flushed. That's not true. Emma quietly pulled out a folder from her bag and laid it on the table. We have copies of the paperwork, Mom. Silence. Liam looked confused. Wait, what? I turned to him. She said she was updating her will. In reality, she filed a quitclaim deed to transfer the house to a religious trust. The church was going to accept it quietly, but they backed out once I showed them the documents. Mom's lips parted, but no words came out. And the lawyer? I added. The one helping her do this? I've already filed a complaint with the state bar. He was walking a legal tightrope, pushing paperwork that required family agreement, without disclosing the real intent. The bar's investigating him now. Aunt Marie coughed into her napkin. Emma just stared at Mom with a look I'd never seen on her face before. Pure disappointment. You were going to give away the only family asset we had, I said, voice calm. And you needed me to agree without realizing what I was agreeing to. That's why the apology. The will. The peace offering. It was all just a smokescreen. Mom tried to speak, but I raised a hand. Not angry, just final. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to inform. This stops now. Liam finally spoke, slowly. Wait. You were going to donate the house and not tell us. She stammered. It was mine to give. I raised you all in it. But it wasn't about giving, Emma said, her voice sharp now. It was about control. You didn't want us to have something if we weren't under your thumb. Mom turned to her. That's not true. I was trying to honor something bigger than us. It's called legacy. Emma let out a cold laugh. You were trying to punish Evan. Again. I stood. We're done letting you rewrite the narrative. I handed her a final document, this one drafted by my lawyer. A formal declaration, signed and notarized, revoking any implied consent I'd previously given to property transfers or estate adjustments. It made her little paper trail useless. Even if she tried to backdoor a transfer again, she wouldn't be able to get a title company to cooperate. She stared at it like it was a snake. You think you've won, she said. No, I said. I think I've stopped losing. Then I turned to everyone else. If anyone here still wants to pretend this was all a misunderstanding, feel free. But I'm no longer going to carry the weight of silence just to keep peace. Nobody spoke. Nobody rushed to her defense. For once, The room wasn't on her side. Emma stood too. We'll be leaving now. You can keep the lasagna. As we walked out, Mom sat frozen at the table, surrounded by the wreckage of her own performance. The candles flickered, uneaten bread sat in baskets, and the scent of garlic now hung in the air like a mask slipping off. Later that week, I got an email from the church board. They wanted to sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding and confirm that no transfer had occurred. They also let me know they'd reevaluated certain donation processes moving forward. The lawyer's office? Shut down. Temporarily, maybe. But Thompson was under formal review. My lawyer said it could take months, maybe longer. Either way, I'd made enough noise to ensure they wouldn't try this again. As for my mom, she went silent. No more messages. No more half-truths. Just gone. I imagine she's licking her wounds, telling herself I turned everyone against her. Maybe she's still spinning her story to distant relatives, trying to salvage her image. Maybe not. I don't care anymore. Because I didn't get revenge by screaming. Or by burning it all down. I got it by surviving. By refusing to bend. By quietly, strategically dismantling her power until there was nothing left for her to manipulate. I still have the folder Emma kept. I don't need it anymore, but I hold on to it. Not out of spite, but as a reminder that the moment you stop letting someone rewrite your story is the moment you start writing your own. She tried to cut me off, but I was the one holding the cord.